Hey everyone, welcome to our brand spanking new, as of yet unnamed podcast, broadcasting to you straight from the bowels of Herald headquarters. I'm editor-in-chief Mike Ferrer, and I'm joined by the following insane individuals.
Anthony Simpson.
Dorian Chadwick.
Matt Brown.
And tonight we are going to be bringing you an evening of conversation, discussion, and probably a few more dirty jokes than you'd like to imagine. So how about we just start by, since this is our first podcast, introducing ourselves to the audience, kind of letting them get to know us a bit better. So, Anthony, favorite show this season?
I really wouldn't say I have a favorite show, only because I think most of them are good. But the one I probably am enjoying more than the rest is Wake Up Girls. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that or watching that.
I have not, but I've heard good things about it.
It's by Yamakon, because he's out to save anime again. It's I'm just kind of gonna give a quick little spiel about the show.
Go right ahead.
It's about the 7 girls who are part of this idol group called Wake Up Girls, based in Sendai, another part of Japan. And what I think makes it a little bit different than from other idol shows like Idol Master or Love Live is that this seems to be focused more on some of the darker aspects of the idol culture. Like that it's not all just, hey, let's all just sing songs on a stage and be all happy. It's, it's about some of the seedier elements of the idol fandom. Well, I should say being part of the idol culture, I should say. And this really hits it off with when it aired, they released first a 50-minute movie kind of just to introduce everybody. And in the introduction movie, there's a scene where the president and the manager of this entertainment group are interviewing these girls, and as the girls stand up getting ready to leave, the president goes, "Girls, I have one more question for you." And they go, "Yes." And she goes, "Are you all virgins?" And they're like, "Huh?" And right there tells you that this isn't just kind of your normal idol show. Because the one girl, spoiler, is a former idol herself in a large group who left for some reason and decided she didn't want to really be involved in the idol. She didn't want to be an idol anymore, and then decided to join this group. And it's just about them coming together and, again, focusing on some aspects of the idol, being part of an idol that the other shows really don't hit, like, that, yes, you have to be, not dating anybody, or you have to be a virgin, and that, sometimes you end up getting seedier jobs or have to deal with some seedy people in the business. And I'm actually really enjoying it just for that alone.
Interesting. So it's an idol show that doesn't kind of sugarcoat it. It's one that cuts through the crap to give a better picture of how things are.
Right, and I'm not going to use the word deconstruction because at this point it's a buzzword. It doesn't mean anything anymore. But it's, like I said, it's a lot different than, like I said, Idol Master and Love Live and AKB 0048. That, like I said, it's not all, I mean, there is dancing, there is music, and there is a little bit of fan service, but the fan service aspect isn't meant to be like, you see and go, "Oh God, I gotta whip it out," rub one off. It's meant to be more like kind of creepier because, and I'll give you another scene here. In the second episode, spoiler again, this guy who I won't mention his name, not that I even can remember it, I think it was Pseudo or something anyways, he comes to the girls and gives them these bikinis. He says, "Oh, you gotta try these on." So they take him to this bathhouse type of thing, or sort of like a spa, and they have to get into all the girls have to get in these white bikinis, and they have to dance, and they have to deal with these drunken men. And then as part of their contract, they also have to serve them drinks. So, they're serving men these drinks. And one guy slaps one girl in the ass, and last she's like, "Don't do that." And then they try to make them play these games where like they have to get into these poses. And the guy's like, "Yeah, you got nice tits and ass," and you could just tell the girls are sort of like not real comfortable doing this, but they want to do it because they want to be idols. And then like one of the guys, like he has to kiss the girl, and she like shoves him down the floor and runs off because she's embarrassed. She's like doesn't want to do it. It's not, like I said, it's not a bad show. I mean, it's not a masterpiece. It's never going to be. If you are, like I said, if you are interested in checking it out, like I said, a 50-minute movie was created. You have to watch that first, and it's on Crunchyroll. Before you actually start watching episode 1, because the movie sort of introduces the entire all the girls and some of the cast up front, and then episode 1 kind of starts right off where the movie ends.
Interesting. I can't say I've seen it yet, but I am liking the concept.
Like I said, it's Yamakon, so I mean, he's out. Like I said, he's out to save anime again. I mean, it doesn't have the best character designs this season. Things do look a little muted. Although I'd say the show probably with the best designs, I'd probably say is Wizard Barsters. That's probably the best looking this season. All the stuff I'm watching, I should be more specific. All of the shows that are in the new shows this season I'm watching, I should be more specific.
All right, how about you, Dorian?
Well, actually, prior to this, I haven't been watching a lot of new stuff because I've been things. Like, I just saw Kill la Kill for the first time yesterday.
I envy you.
And then I've watched a couple of them today. The one that stood out to me so far is Nobunaga the Fool. That's the one that actually poked out to me. It's basically like, if we got some of history's greatest people, or most known figures in history, Joan of Arc, Leonardo da Vinci, Nobunaga, Oda, and we put them all in the same world, and someone's the chosen one type thing. It's not crazy, but it is like, I just need to find out. You kind of get it, goes with what the series is about. It's someone's the savior king, or someone's going to be the savior, and combine the two worlds together. It's not as complicated as I'm making it seem. It's just
it's Eastern history with robots, right?
Yeah, there is robots in there too. Yeah, I forgot that part. See?
Yeah, they try to make it seem complicated, but it's really very simple. In the original story, Nobunaga basically came to power by borrowing power from the West, i.e., in the form of firearms.
Yeah, I remember that part from history.
Because that kind of reminds me of the other Nobunaga show, Nobunaga.
Oh yeah,
I've sort of the same thing. That's another good show.
Yeah, I watched that one too. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset Gandhi hasn't blown anything up yet. If Gandhi doesn't blow something up, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, he's Gandhi.
That's why you want to see him blow stuff up, though.
Yeah. Just like the movie UHF said about Gandhi 2, and he has him as like an action movie.
Exactly.
I just want to see Gandhi like blow somebody up or like drop a nuke on somebody. I mean, I don't care what happens. I just want to see him beat somebody up.
That's such a popular thing, imagining Gandhi to be violent. Like this episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where she's like, you want to see my impression of Gandhi? And she punches the guy's fucking face in.
Man. But yeah, that's probably my favorite right now.
All right, cool. And how about you, Matt?
Well, for anybody that knows me, this is probably not going to come as much of a surprise, but I haven't caught very many of the shows this season, but I did watch a few, and I did my typical single episode screening to get a feel for it. And I know a lot of anime fans don't agree with this, but I think one episode should be enough, and if it's not, then a show really doesn't deserve my attention. Anyway, out of this season so far, I've seen, I would say I've seen one episode of maybe 4 shows. And the one that stands out for me, and as I said, this will come as no surprise, is the OVA episode that's been released for Mushishi. For anybody that doesn't know about the show, it's, I believe, a 2006 show. It was originally a TV show, 26 episodes, where there's a man, the main protagonist, named Ginkgo, and he is able to see creatures that normal people can't see. And these creatures are sort of at a lower level, like a more core level of the on the tree of the, like a lower level of in reference to the source of all life. So humans can't perceive them, but they're instrumental in a lot of the things that happen. that are visible to humans. So each episode is sort of somebody is influenced by one of these mushi, and Ginkgo comes in, and he has a deeper understanding of how they operate, and he attempts to fix the situation. And I would say that this OVA is pretty much the same thing, except a little bit longer. And for me, that's mostly a good thing. I really enjoyed watching the show. It has a lot of very interesting points, on the nature of life and how humans relate to it. And this OVA is more of the same.
Would you say it's on the level of the TV series in terms of quality, or?
Absolutely. It's just because it's an OVA, it's just a little bit longer per episode. I'm actually not sure if they're going to make another. Wikipedia puts it down as a special, and Crunchyroll calls it an OVA. I'm actually not sure if there's going to be more.
Hopefully there is, because I really did like Mushishi, the TV series. I haven't caught the OVA/special yet, but now I kind of have to. Personally, I've been trying to keep up with a few shows this season. In addition to standbys like Kill la Kill, I've started up Nisekoi, Tonai no Seki-kun, Hamatora, Nobunaga the Fool, and a couple of others that I just kind of dropped shortly after watching, like Super Sonico.
I was gonna say, Mike, I thought Super Sonico was your favorite anime of the season.
Oh my god, it's my favorite! No, that show is absolute fucking garbage.
Well,
Don't sugarcoat it, Mike.
Well, we all know that when it gets released, we all know that when Sentai releases it, Mike's gonna pre-order like 10 copies of it.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be the first one in line to get that one with the special old pie mouse pad.
No, I just had to get in there because I'm like I better get in there, but Mike not like loving Super Sonico.
Oh yeah, you can definitely prod me on that one. Oh man, watching that first episode was just torture. I mean, it's like the show had no point whatsoever outside of.
I'm sorry, I didn't even bother watching it myself. I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Honestly, the only reason that I even thought about putting it on is because I was doing pressers earlier in the day, and well, I saw it in the queue and the to watch list, like the streaming selection. I said, it can't be that bad. Famous last words. Just like that time I decided to watch Angel Tales. And for those who don't know, Angel Tales is a show about this. It's a 2003 harem show about this guy who has horrible luck. He loves animals, but every time he has a pet, they die. And one day, he's visited by the spirit of fortune, who brings all of his dead pets back as cute girls that want to have sex with him. It's horrible. It's creepy as sin.
That's like a furry's wet dream right there.
Well, not even the furries, because they're fully human looking. It's creepy, because one of them is like 3 years old.
Oh, what?
Oh man, I mean, I showed this once at one of my bad anime nights, and honestly, if you've ever seen a room want to bum rush a guy, this was the show that did it.
Hey, in cat years, 3 is like 12. That's totally old enough.
Oh. Okay.
She's totally hitting that age where she's not going to be a loli anymore soon. So you gotta strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, but then the otaku won't want her.
Oh.
That's why I said. That's why I said strike while the iron's hot.
True. Anyway, getting back on topic.
I think we've been on topic the whole time. Just saying.
The show that I'd probably say is my favorite of the bunch, my favorite would probably be, of all things, Tonari no Seki-kun, just because I'm a sucker for a good short form show. And for some reason, this one just works. Tonari no Seki-kun, for those that haven't watched it, revolves around Seki-kun, obviously, who is, as they call him, the master of killing time. And it's all told through this girl sitting in the desk next to him, watching him as he goofs off in class. He does everything from setting up these like elaborate domino displays with like this giant firework at the end to these convoluted games of like shogi and go. I mean, it's a single gag show, but it works. I find myself enjoying it, and at 6 to 7 minutes an episode, it's not one of those things where you're kind of sitting there asking, why did I watch that?
Yeah, I dropped that after the first episode. I'm not a huge fan of those short episode anime. I'm just the only one I've ever really liked is Italia. But most of them, I think, just are some I think are just too short for their own good.
Yeah, it seems to be more fun when you have something like Lucky Star that takes a short form humor and just patches a bunch of them together for a longer episode.
Yeah, I think that would probably work for some of the other ones because, like, especially the ones that are based on Morcoma, that they make these shorts out of that. You know, maybe not full episode. I'd want to see that, but maybe like say like 2 or 3 stories you have, say like a 15-minute episode. You know, a 10-minute episode.
So kind of like a Galaxy Angel approach almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that working. Just you have to make sure the concept is strong enough to work, because for every Lucky Star, there's a Kill Me Baby. Yeah. You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Alright, so I guess we should move on to our first major topic. In the news this week, an interview made its way out to the web with Hayao Miyazaki. During the interview, he was quoted saying the following. You see, whether you can draw like this or not, being able to think up this kind of design, it depends on whether or not you can say to yourself, oh yeah, girls like this exist in real life. If you don't spend time watching real people, you can't do this because you've never seen it. Some people spend their lives interested only in themselves. Almost all Japanese animation is produced with hardly any basis taken from observing real people. Real people, you know. It's produced by humans who can't stand looking at other humans, and that's why this industry is full of otaku. Now, if you remember correctly, this created pretty much a shitstorm across most anime forums, social media. People screaming, what does he know, blah blah blah, which led to much hilarity on my end because this is something that Miyazaki's been saying since the 80s, I think, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that after your spiel.
So anyway, what are your thoughts on it, everyone?
Well, first off, it's Miyazaki being Miyazaki. He just says what he wants, and to one point, he goes on about, I think people are saying, like, he mentioned that people don't know how to draw stuff or they take shortcuts. And to be fair, you know, a lot of TV anime doesn't have, you know, they don't have, like, a budget for a Ghibli movie. You know, if they had that, or, let me rephrase it. In a perfect world, every TV anime would have the budget of a Ghibli movie where they could have, you know, something pull a lot of money into the animation to make it look beautiful. But, you know, unfortunately, we don't live in a, you know, world like that. So we do end up taking, you know, there are shortcuts being made, and it doesn't bring the quality down. But, you know, TV anime usually operates on a very limited budget and also very, very tight deadlines where, you know, sometimes you have to just, you know, just take shortcuts to get there. And
sometimes the episodes are completed just hours before they're airing.
Yeah. And to be fair, this isn't just something that is specific to Japan. I've heard this a few times over happen here in the United States with shows, with some like animated shows. I think like The Simpsons and maybe even some of the movies I've heard people, they just get stuff done, and by movies I mean both live action and animated. They get stuff done just before it goes to the theater. So,
or honestly, a more recent one, the show Regular Show. One of the episodes, they actually had to air a test screener because the final wasn't done. It was like the colors were off, the animation was incredibly rough, but they had to run it.
Because, you know, because we all know what happens when you put stuff and that leads to quality in our anime.
That's crazy. I did not know that about that. You know which episode of a Regular Show that was?
I don't remember the title, but it was the one where Muscle Man enters the bodybuilding contest. It was actually this past season. I will pull up the name now. And
yeah. I think I remember actually watching that episode. I don't remember anything being. I may have seen the one after they finished it, because I don't remember seeing anything out of the unusual about that. But maybe I was just like too into the episode to actually notice.
Yeah, it was actually like it only happened on the first run, but it looks like they corrected it in future airings. Let's see.
Sorry, another thing also people remember is that maybe if there is like an error, say on the TV side, a lot of times that does get fixed up on the physical media releases, they do get
Mm.
fixed up. Like for example, I want like that thing I just sent you guys for Wake Up Girls.
I will actually be posting this in some show notes later as well. So
Yeah,
for those listening, we will have the media and the links.
yeah, because you can see the link says that's amazing, and I go, well, I don't think those character designs are. I posted on Twitter earlier. Then the next to the one I said about where they had the picture of that weed and Cold Boone, I said that probably would have been a hell of a lot better name for that system.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah, from Minari Con.
mm,
Because I said Woo's probably a better name than we.
right. And even then, like you were saying, for DVD releases, they always have to clean these things up. Like,
Yeah.
my favorite example is, sorry, go on.
Or they cut out the magic rays of light or other forms of censorship.
Right.
And we get to see the parts we were supposed to see.
That's also true. They give like the uncensored versions. The example I like to pull out for this is actually from a long time ago. I mean, this is like, I'm guessing some of the people listening to this were probably still in like middle or high school when this happened. A show called Lost Universe, which is based on a novel series by Hajime Kanzaka, who did Slayers. One episode called Coconut Crabs Kill. I can't remember the Japanese name. It was something about Yashigani or coconut crabs. The Korean studio completely botched it. Like, the animation was completely wrong. People, even the character designs were all messed up and goofy looking. It was so bad that they actually had to air an on-air apology and completely redo the episode from scratch just because it was so bad.
Dang.
Let's see. I'll be tossing this in the show notes, actually. Just because people need to see the awful.
People need to see the awful. Shouldn't we protect people from the awful?
No, you need to see the awful. Haven't you heard?
I've heard of the story, but I never actually looked at it.
I actually showed this at Bad Anime Night once, and people were like, "This thing exists." The only way that I've seen the full episode is through this side-by-side comparison with like the remade version, but it gives you enough that you can actually see how badly things went for this.
Of course, and there's always classics like this one.
Kamichama Karen, yes. The one where you had the dirt bikes. I forgot about that entirely.
I've never seen that show.
Oh, wow. Those eyes. Oh wow, I can see the difference in animation already. Like one looks lazy as hell, and the other actually has some artistic.
Yeah, they actually had to issue a public apology for that one. It was so bad.
Well, I think they also for what's the show? Psycho Pass. I think those producers apologized for one of the episodes because it was supposedly off model, but I've seen it look fine to me. But maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough. Or like that one episode of Welcome to NHK that's just completely off model the whole way through. And they never even fixed it for the DVD release. It's off model on TV and the physical release is off model too.
That says how well the show did, actually.
Yeah, well, that's a good. Oh, well, Welcome to NHK is a good show.
It is. It's clear that it didn't do too well in its run.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
This time I think we did get a bit off topic. We were talking about Miyazaki, and then all of a sudden
Yes.
it was a talk about how budgetary and time constraints cause all sorts of horrible shit to happen with television.
Right. So, what are your thoughts, Dorian?
Alright, well, like I known he was notorious for speaking his mind. He's almost like, I wouldn't say, well, many people consider him a Walt Disney over in Japan, which I can definitely see that. But as far as speaking his mind, he's more like the Stephen King. Like he will actually say, "Fuck Twilight," or whatever. But I don't. What I think he did definitely offended some people out there. I mean, I've looked on a lot of the forums, especially the one that Anime Network, and a lot of people go off. I've heard people compare this to the comic book industry, where you have this like section of fans that isolate everybody else if you don't look at it this way, or if you don't read it this way, then you're not a real fan, or like I know a lot of folks say if you don't watch anime dubbed, you're not looking at watching the real thing, or you're not really an anime fan, or you're stupid. You're not allowed to be in this culture, or whatever, whatnot. So I can partially see that. But I do think is that you need people that actually likes whatever they're working on. I mean, you're going to have some otakus. I mean, that's a given. So, well, I don't think I think that was maybe a little unfair to say that, but I could definitely see where he's coming from.
All right, and Matt.
All right. So I actually did some research on this shit because I happen to have a book called Starting Point, 1979 to 1996, which was a collection of essays that Miyazaki wrote that were released, a few years ago now. I honestly can't remember when, but it was released by Viz Media. And I'm just going to read a few things that I found on the topic of Japanese animation that Miyazaki wrote. Okay, here we go. Japanese anime is the result of creating animation based on original Japanese manga stories, of appropriating manga character designs and absorbing the power of manga. It generally has involved assembling production staffs of young men and women who are aspiring manga artists. There are exceptions, of course, but I think I stand on safe ground in making this generalization. And then, when producing TV animation, meeting broadcast deadlines takes priority over everything else, and this usually means reducing to an absolute minimum the true hallmark of animation, the movement, or moving drawings, and creating a marketable product. I think the main reason that viewers accepted this odd sort of animation is actually because they had been conditioned by the visual language of manga, the elder brother of anime, which had already suffused throughout society. And I've got a few more things here, a few nuggets.
Please unleash the nuggets.
Okay. It is impossible to make drawings more smoothly if they are done in a more realistic Gekiga style. And on top of that, if the drawings are mass-produced by an inflated number of staff members who have no sense of solidarity or unity to begin with, the life really goes out of them. So this is the Miyazaki that we know well today, but it was in 1987. So this was 27 years ago, and Miyazaki was 46 years old. I didn't calculate that in my head. I had it notes.
So basically, it's Miyazaki saying stuff he's been saying all.
Exactly. It's just
that's a running theme.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's still what he said then is still actually true today. Like Anthony pointed out, you still have these tight deadlines.
That is true, but at the same time, we've also seen a lot of modern affordances come in. When Miyazaki actually started off, he actually did do TV anime. I mean, one of his shows is Sherlock Hound, which was like Sherlock Holmes with the main character being a dog. And it was a TV anime. So, I mean, at that time you had to not only coordinate the key animation, but you also had to worry about the in-betweening, because while there was work being done in Korea, I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think that was actually done locally. I can double check on that, verify. But something like that where you had to kind of piece together in that timetable. He's very, very well acquainted with that world.
I think
a lot of times. Oh, sorry.
He definitely sympathizes with the TV conundrum, and actually that's something that some people have blamed Osamu Tezuka for, the other, Walt Disney of Japanese animation, because he made deals with to get animation on TV that were seen to color the whole industry from there on. Some of the more modern animators think that Tezuka kind of sold out in the heat of the moment, and anime was seen to be cheap from there on out.
I was to say, if you want a good example of how hectic it is, the anime Golden Boy, the last episode has about an animation studio and how just hectic it is to meet this deadline.
Or also, I'd probably recommend Animation Runner Kuromi.
Oh, I never seen that. I was just because like I said, I'd seen Golden Boy earlier in the year, and that just popped in. First thing popped in my head.
Right. Both Golden Boy and Kuromi, that episode Golden Boy and Kuromi deal with that very harsh reality of working on that time crunch. They're both very differently presented in tone, but a lot of the common themes do come across, which is kind of interesting.
And you do see a lot of the other anime studios do in betweens for other companies like Kyoto Animation, for example. Before they really started doing their own stuff, they did in betweens for stuff like Cowboy Bebop and I can't think of so many other shows, but I know they did a lot of they helped a lot of other studios out doing some in between things before they started making their own stuff.
All right. I have a few more snippets from this book that I'd like to share.
Awesome.
Okay, so he's still talking about Japanese anime for TV and how it's evolved. He says, the technique of making drawings move was thus used to emphasize an extended and distorted sense of time and space, and was primarily relegated to a decorative function. Drawing a character's subtle but ordinary gestures, something that animators had never been very good at anyway, was actively eliminated as an unnecessary and old-fashioned practice. Instead, depicting extraordinariness became the ultimate goal. So he's talking about how, it's heavily related to budgets, but stylistically, this is how anime has evolved. It emphasizes action and, just ridiculous facial gestures over the subtle and natural gestures. Now, let's see. It looks like I only have 3 more things to share, so I'm just going to go through them all. Okay. In the beginning, people used all sorts of ideas fashionable at the time to justify this use of overexpressionism, and it was overwhelmingly supported, especially when theater audiences or TV viewers over-identified with particular works or felt a personal resonance with them, sometimes even more than the creators had intended. And then he says, I may be somewhat guilty of overstating the problems of Japanese anime. I certainly don't want to give the impression that all anime works use overexpressionism. And then he goes into a short blurb about the more interesting things that TV animators are doing. And that stated, I believe it is fair to say that the majority of works had tended to excessive expressionism, and that most young staff members at animation productions entered the industry infatuated with it. So we're starting to see how this is related to the topic of the day. And the final quote I want to share is, let's see, in reality, in 1987, even as I write this, the boom in overexpressionism has peaked and the phenomenon has lost the mindshare it once had. What survives has taken refuge in direct-to-video anime works. But despite a great deal of advertising of video as part of the new media, we see very little actual growth in this market. Instead, what we see is a typical example of a shrinking reproduction process wherein fans are trapped in a cycle of making films for fans. So, way back in 1987, he was saying that it's nothing but otaku in anime, and they have no choice but to make films for otaku.
It's kind of the catch-22 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of us have been paying attention long enough to see that there's been some changes since the 80s. The 90s were sort of I guess the 80s too. They saw some interesting things happening in anime, and then toward the end of the 90s and I would say the early 2000s, we sort of reset the cycle, and now we're back in this this period of anime being almost literally nothing but direct manga adaptations.
It seems to be something that goes in a cycle, though. With every time that pendulum swings to this situation, there's always something like, say, a Cowboy Bebop or an Attack on Titan that drags it right back.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say Attack on Titan is something that can drag it back, but it's something that has a more general popularity than just otaku, and for that, it's encouraging. But it doesn't have the kind of mainstream popularity that Cowboy Bebop was able to achieve.
I wouldn't say that because, honestly, in the home market in Japan, Attack on Titan has sold over 30 million copies at this point. So I mean, it's
I know. I know we're going to get to that topic,
yeah.
so I can refrain from saying any more for now. But
I'll defer from that.
Yeah, I would say, just flatly at this point, I don't agree that there's anything that can bust them out of this right now. But it's true. It's the same thing as when you're in a recession, all you can think about is when's it going to end, right?
Exactly.
I think anime is in a similar position right now. It's somewhat stagnated, but not completely. Mm-hmm. It may be showing signs of recovery, but nobody is sure. And that's pretty much where I would leave it at this point.
I mean, I think that's true, but in any type of recession, and not just necessarily with, or at least other forms of entertainment, they tend to, and this isn't really just specifically for anime, you have to see this in Western films, and you see this in others, that instead of a lot of maybe either experimentation or trying things, what do? They stick to tried and true things. They know that, okay, we make this, we can make a bunch of money, we'll stick to that. Good example, look at Western movies. We kept, it seemed like for a while there, we kept getting the superhero movies.
Right, Sorry.
And then, with video games, they keep just pumping out FPS games all the time. But that's more, they're just trying to run the coattails of COD. But
right, entertainment.
Sorry, Mike. This just isn't. Like I said, this just isn't specific to anime. You see this in other things, where again, in times where, I'm not saying when things are good, you don't sort of see the same thing kind of be done again, or somebody were trying to ride on the coattails of others. That happens too. But when things aren't, like, okay, you don't want to take a huge amount of risk because, especially say like a recession, you take enough of a risk, it could, entirely wipe out your studio, or even in good times you can do it too. They say, well, we'll stick to stuff we know that we can sell. We need stuff that, okay, tried and true, this works, let's make that. And then, like I said, then you get a gluttony of superhero movies, but they sell, some of them did. But they know that, okay, they're popular. Americans, some do, not all do. I particularly don't care for superhero movies, but, some like superhero movies, we can make a bunch of money. We can make a bunch of money worldwide with these. Let's keep making. And like I said, anime's been sort of this way too, even when things were good in Japan. They would still make stuff, a whole bunch of different things, but they'd also make stuff that would focus on the otaku, what the otaku would be interested in. You saw, you sort of saw in the 80s, and you saw in the 90s, and you saw it last decade, with what they made. But again, too, also Japan's been in recession for some time now, a good bit of time, where it's, okay, we can't really take as many risks, so let's just focus on, okay, this hardcore market, who, really is the only one that's buying anything to begin with. Let's focus on them because they're the ones paying for this stuff, so let's just focus solely on them.
Right.
Now, if Japan does get out of this recession ever, I don't know. Well, I mean, we'll get back to where we can see a lot of experimentation. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you might start to see it more, some of this experimentation with them doing like Kickstarter or these other types of like crowdfunding type sources. And, Attack on Titan, definitely got the otaku crowd. I'm not sure about the Fujoshi. I'm sure they probably bought it. because it's a heavy male cast, so they probably bought it for that purpose. Has got mainstream appeal, and Kill la Kill seems to be selling all right. But I've also been noticing now that it seems like the market is now starting to almost swing towards a Fujoshi focus, because we saw Free, during the summer season, that sold really well, and that's getting a sequel.
Megane Boo.
What's that?
Megane Boo.
Yeah, but I don't know how that sold though.
Didn't do spectacularly, but it's one of the more prominent examples of that.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, the example Free, because that's sold like, it sold pretty well for KyoAni. And like I said, they're making another season of it. So, I mean, obviously they're going to keep, maybe the market is starting to see a bit more of a shift towards focusing on the Fujoshi shows, because they're market too, and, they do make shows for Fujoshi, but a lot of them, which I haven't seen, and I'm not going to, I've heard are pretty much garbage. Because they're usually making them off like the Otome games which are aimed at Fujoshi.
Right. I can't really comment on the quality because, well, I don't watch them. But it's really kind of interesting to see how these trends work, because entertainment is strictly a trend-based industry. When something's hot, everyone goes for what's hot.
Right.
And as you were saying, as things get tougher and tougher, they start chasing those trends more intensely. They start going for that core group of customers.
Right.
Actually, this is rooted in business theory. Clayton Christensen actually wrote about this in one of his books. I believe it was The Innovator's Dilemma. I have to double check that. But it's basically called retreating up market. Basically, the common behavior of a business is to try and get as safe as it can and go for its quote-unquote best customers. But at the same time, what they're doing is they're leaving a giant gaping hole of what a lot of people call crappy customers. They're, the transients, the people that come in, maybe buy one or two things and leave. But while they don't spend as much on the whole as those quote-unquote good customers, there's so much more of those transients. So every so often you're going to see some sort of attempt made to grab that group. And once it does, that's when you're going to start to see that pendulum really start to swing, because they'll have found something big, something new, that as the other businesses start to catch up, they'll notice that the disruptor came in, grabbed a huge chunk of market share, and they're going to want to try and kind of steal that back before they end up as an irrelevant footnote. This is actually the core basis of blue ocean theory.
Well, I think that's what a lot of business owners are ultimately uncomfortable with, because they grow their businesses by catering to early adopters,
Right.
the people who are just interested in what they're working on. But ultimately, the only way that they can expand in any kind of wildest dreams kind of way is to get a hold of the people who have no reason to be interested in them, but they might like your sales pitch.
Well, I wouldn't even say, quote-unquote, they might like your sales pitch, because the real goal of that type of grab is to go after what they call first and second tier non-customers. These are people that have maybe interested in your actual product, but they just either have a reason to stay away, which is your first tier. Like for anime, it's people that like Cowboy Bebop, they like stuff like Black Lagoon or Attack on Titan, but they're absolutely repulsed by the subculture.
Right. Sorry to interrupt, but that's the point I was trying to get at. That there's a price to catering for catering to loyal customers, and you have to balance that against the kind of money that you could make by appealing to everyone.
Right.
That was sort of like the backlash came with when Free was coming out, because some people, I had seen that they were worried that, the otaku were going to be upset that, KyoAni's is betraying them, because instead of making one of the shows that they make, they're making a show for Fujoshi, and that would be, they're betraying us, and well, we fear that Kalani would do. This could affect Keone, but
Mm.
I mean, it doesn't look like they're going to affect them at all because Fujoshi most likely bought free, and they did. It sold very well.
Right.
They got Chunibyu second season,
Mm.
Mary now, which I'm pretty sure they talk about because that first season sold well too.
Just going to interject for a second. For those who don't know, Fujoshi is basically women that like yaoi, or similar. Just saying out to clarify.
And yaoi is man-on-man action.
Man-on-man action.
Let's deconstruct the whole thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
Benji's got a term for it, but I'm not going to say it.
Oh.
I'll let him say it when he's around next time. But I have to ask, though, who was the one that the otaku were upset about Nichijou, and the otaku were upset with Kyoani and afraid of being no longer pandered to. But the real question is, who betrayed whom? If I remember correctly, Nichijou was an absolute market failure. The Blu-rays and DVDs sold like absolute crap, and it was, I don't even think it was profitable. I can double check, but I know I did a write-up on this situation. I don't even think it was a break-even on the Blu-rays. So at that point, KyoAni had a choice to make. They could either keep making the stuff they do to an audience that may or may not be indifferent to what they're selling, or try and get that new market. So, I mean,
I couldn't blame them going after a new market. It worked for them.
Absolutely.
And I only watched the first episode of Free. It looked very nice, but I didn't care to watch anymore. It just didn't seem to interest me. Obviously, it was enough with the female crowd audience that they wanted to buy it, and they did. And like I said, it's getting another season next year.
Exactly.
So, I don't know if this is like the trend where now, it's not going to get to the point where you only have a whole bunch of shows aimed at Fujoshi and a couple of otaku. I think you might get to a point that I like to see is sort of maybe a 50-50 or close to thereof where you're aiming at both. You're aiming at both female audiences and male audiences. And it's not necessarily to say that shows aimed at the male crowd, the otaku crowd can't be enjoyed by females. There are. And of course that goes the same thing with Fujoshi shows. So, is the trend changing? I don't know. Like I said, maybe I like to see a little bit more balance. To balance out, then maybe I'd stop hearing about, people keep saying, it's just, they keep aiming at the otaku crowd. It's like, well, if the balance changes, and it sort of goes 50, gets close to 50-50 as it can, then it's, then they're going to start aiming at both groups. We're going to start seeing shows aimed, shows aimed at otaku. Maybe the show, some shows in there that are kind of the mainstream shows aimed at both, and the shows aimed at the Fujoshi crowd group. Sorry, and then we have that kind of happy little medium where everybody's kind of being serviced, quality aside, everyone's kind of being serviced at once.
Absolutely, that would be the ideal.
Yeah, is it? Like I said, maybe the pendulum is swinging, so more shows are aimed at females. Spring season alone looks like, I don't know off the top of my head here, but looks like we're starting to see some more for the spring season coming up. There's some more shows aimed at, seeing more stuff aimed at a female audience.
It's absolutely encouraging.
Not just like the, and I don't mean just like shows like Free, but like the romance shows. Because we get them every season, not like the shonen romance, but like the shows like, okay, well this was a couple seasons ago or some time ago, like Kami-sama Kiss or Say I Love You, like shows from 20. Sorry, they were 2012 shows, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Kami-sama Kiss was, I think, and Say I Love You was, because I finished that up at the end of 2012.
All right. I think we've kind of said what needs to be said here.
Yeah.
I think we drove this one into the ground in a good way. In a good way. Always in a good way.
Well, if it's a good way, it's not into the ground, right?
Right.
Well, it's a good way is that we're not trying to jump through the internet and strangle each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, this is.
Well, we could try to do that, but I would just sit back and laugh. to be honest.
See, this is the podcast that cares. We don't try to actively strangle each other.
But if we did, you wouldn't know.
Exactly.
Oh.
Well, you would when one of the people didn't show up the next week.
Oh.
It's not like you would be checking police reports for Cranston, Rhode Island, and wherever you are in Pennsylvania, Anthony, and Orlando, Florida, and I have no idea where you are, Dorian.
North Carolina.
All I'll just say is I'm about 10 miles southwest of Harrisburg. That's all I'll say.
The
Dorian
capital of Pennsylvania that nobody knows of as anything but the capital.
Yeah, it's not. I'm about probably 9-10 miles southwest of it. Harrisburg.
Do you have land that the frackers are interested in?
No, they're all up. Not near where we live.
Oh. Well, I have no reason to strangle you then.
Well, I know. Well, apparently I never knew this. My dad was like, I was telling my uncle that the development we live in used to be swampland years ago, a long time ago. But no, I don't think the people who are trying to get natural gas are coming to our door asking to check our lands for what little land we have we have natural gas. And even if we did, I don't think we'd bother drilling because there'd be no point because I think we only have like quarter acre, and that probably wouldn't bode too well for trying to get natural gas out of.
Well, now that we've established that Anthony isn't worth strangling, I guess we can move on.
All right. Anyway, moving on. Watch where you sleep, no skin. Moving on. Earlier this week, Nikkei reported and NTV announced that they purchased a 54.3% stake of Tatsunoko. The company reportedly spent several hundred million yen in an effort to diversify its entertainment portfolio and to bump up its anime production. Any thoughts on it?
No comment from me.
I'm kind of excited only because of the two properties I've seen that was under them previously. And that was Gatchaman, Speed Racer. I don't know if you guys have watched the show Gatchaman Crowds.
Oh god, yes, I love Crowds.
I like it too. I like it a lot. And when I heard it was getting the second season, I was excited. And hopefully, with this additional company, they might get some additional backing. They have better looking animation. And then I saw Speed Racer, in which I'm kind of a Speed Racer fan. You know, it's a very. So I remember I had the VHS when I was super young. It was the movie. It was awesome. I loved it. And I even have even the live action movie is my guilty pleasure. But I would love it if they actually did if they actually redid the Speed Racer series with better animation and stuff. I would love to see that.
You know, they can actually do that now. They actually reclaimed the license not too long ago. The problem with that was, for the longest time, a company known as Speed Racer Inc., I believe it was.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They had a lawsuit.
Yep, they held the U.S. license with an iron grip, and it wasn't until they made one little slip-up that Tatsunoko could take it back. So, hopefully we'll see more come from that.
Actually, now sorry to interrupt, but
no problem.
Talking. There is one thing I do wanted to ask about is now that they've been bought they've been purchased. I wonder how that production company's deal with Sentai Filmworks. I wonder if that's still going to stay, if that's still going to be active, or if that, with this being taken over, I wonder if that's going to be retracted.
I don't see that changing too much, because usually with something like that, if you have a working business relationship, it stays in place because it's a lot less work to change the name of the game.
Sorry.
The one I'm more interested in is Tatsunoko is one of the rights holders for Macross, which, as you know, is kind of locked up by Harmony Gold.
Yeah.
I wonder if NTV would have the stones to go after Harmony Gold to get that back.
They have the money. So.
And they got the lawyers.
Yeah, I always got the sense that Harmony Gold had no standing whatsoever, but that the Japanese companies were wary of freeing that up stateside because I don't know, because maybe they're not sure that the profits could make up for the legal trouble.
It really
It
depends
was,
on how much they want the license.
I mean, litigation in the U.S. is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
They might not ever make that cost back.
True, but it really depends because it depends on how much money Harmony Gold has to spend too. I mean, this is pretty much it's a company that exists primarily for Robotech at this point.
Well, that's the whole problem. They just rake in the money and they don't have any costs.
Right, and the sad thing is, rather than use that money for much good and putting out stuff like, say, Macross Frontier or the older Macross stuff, they just pump out these horrible Americanized Robotech films like Shadow Chronicles, which is absolutely depressing considering that there's no way in hell that Shadow Chronicles can live up to some of the stuff that's coming out of the home market because it's tertiary at best at that point, you know? I mean...
But there's another side to this, too. I think the whole thing has created a sort of cult following behind Macross, which we all had the opportunity to buy Macross, the original 36 episodes.
True.
Of several years ago, and which I did, and I enjoyed watching the show, but ultimately decided that it was nothing special. But because of this, because of this cloud over the whole Macross franchise, I think it's gotten much more attention than it may even deserve.
That is a good point.
But that said, people really loved Macross Frontier, and it's a shame that hasn't been released stateside.
It never will be if things keep going the way they are either,
Yeah.
which is kind of sad. It's actually kind of interesting considering that, like you said, we did get some chances to get like the original Macross or Macross Plus, I think.
Yeah.
Stuff like that did make its way here through like manga entertainment or Animego did the original Macross release. Then I think ADV had a run of it, if I remember correctly.
Well, ADV released the Robotech, yeah.
But I think they also had a short run of the Macross too.
Yeah, they did.
Well, wasn't it the Robotech version of Macross?
No, it was the original.
Yeah, because I have that box set. Well, they did. Well, they put it out originally was the singles with a nice art box, which I actually own. And then they eventually did a couple of years ago. They did a thin pack. I think they took all the extras off because the extras on there were actually really nice because it was one of them was the translator, and he just talks about like some of these process with the translation, and then the one I thought was really interesting was him talking about when I forget what one guy was talking about Suikaru about the Chinese girl. I can't even think her name now. Saying about she's girl asked if they were an item, and he held up his pinky, and then the translator said about how usually if somebody does it, that means that's sort of how they do in Japan to ask if somebody's your girlfriend, if a female's your girlfriend, and if they do thumbs up, it's asking if some guy's your boyfriend. And I just thought that was interesting because I never knew that before. You don't see it too much in modern anime, but you see that hand gesture done. But it was just something that was interesting to see. And then there was it was Minmay. Sorry, I remember now. And then I think they did an interview with her because both the English and Japanese is done by the same person. The same VA does it both Japanese and English. So they talked to her about that, and then her doing the Japanese because the guy who played Hikaru, he actually died some years ago. He passed away, and just how that she became close with his voice actor's mother, that they became real close, because of Macross.
On a side note, I always hated the fact that they stripped the extras out of the special editions, but I can see why they did.
Well, I
can see why. It's one of those things where there was a way to try and maintain value with the singles.
Yeah, it's like see, Sentai did. That's sort of got mad at a couple of their old releases, or should say ADV's releases. Sorry, because this is when they still were ADV. Like,
Right.
I think the first, actually, I bought the first things I bought from ADV were the singles for Azumangadayo and the thin pack, which just they still obsessed me. I bought it for Super Gals.
Mm.
Because
Wow.
it stripped all the extras, so there was the Gals Explains It All. The opening
Really?
menus were...
Those are fun too.
Yeah, what it was instead of being 6 discs, it was 5.
Mm.
So the menus weren't animated. They didn't have any translation notes either, and like with the singles came with the translation notes.
Oh my god, you must have been absolutely lost at that point.
Well, they still
Wow.
had I love the show, and then I got mad because I'm like, damn it, they didn't come with the extras. So what I ended up doing then was, like a year or two later, I went and hunt down and bought all the singles for the ADV singles, and then, of course, then I went and bought the Right Stuff's complete collection of it. Years later, then I finally bought that. But
By the way, that's Mari Iijima that did the voice of Minmay.
But yeah, that was and then like the other one though was Excel World. 5 discs, no extra, not even ADV notes.
Crap.
So yeah, now granted, Funimation's release is kind of the same way, but to be fair, it's like I think someone said it best. It's ADV notes, which is their stuff, not
Right.
Funimation. So it's not funny notes; it's ADV notes.
Right. Funimation had no real claim to that.
Though, which is even funnier because on I don't know if you've ever seen the show Kaleidostar.
I have.
Well, I have the ADV singles for that, and I also have the Funimation's release of it. Well, Funimation's extras, one of them is I forget, it's one of the voice actors as going through her day. Like her in her home, and then going to, I think her parents' house, because this house was huge. And then going to school, and then going to ADV to do voice work. Well, they kept that extra in the Funimation release, so it's kind of humorous to see that, and then see, like, I'm going here to ADV to do my work. Just kind of funny. It's just like...
One of these things are not like the other.
Yeah, which is... Yeah, that was... Yeah, that was just another one that was kind of humorous, because it's just like, well, that's completely 2 different companies, but...
Yeah, my first ADV thing was, well, not even ADV films. I had VHS of ADV fan subs versions of City Hunter.
Now it's way before my time.
God, I love City Hunter.
Yeah, ADV fan subs was their... I don't know if all of their VHS were labeled that way, but City Hunter was.
ADV fan subs was basically their ultra niche line going into the early 90s. It was reserved for stuff like, say, City Hunter or trying to think. It was mostly like their really small run stuff that they personally wanted to do, but they knew it wasn't going to sell a ton on market.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the first anime DVD I had, and I'm having trouble. I'm not even sure what it was. It might have been Macross Plus.
I'm weird. I remember both my first tape and my first DVD.
I remember my first tape. I remember my first tape, my first DVD, and my first Blu-ray. So, my first tape was the first 3 episodes of the original Pokemon series. I remember that because I bought that like on Black. I bought it in like I think it was like the day, like that Saturday after Christmas. Whenever it came out, I think, which was 98. 99, yeah, I have that. My first DVDs were the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, and I remember this because that year my parents had got me a PS2 for Christmas, and I wasn't working, so my family, my aunts and my uncles, they'd give me money, so I had like this pile of money, and when Media Play still existed, which was like forever ago, there was one over in Harrisburg. And I told my parents, hey, can you take me over to Media Play? And I went over there, and this was like the Saturday after Christmas. And I went and bought the first 5 volumes of the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and I still own those. I have them sitting in my basement. And I think, if I remember correctly, my first Well, my first anime Blu-ray was the Magical Girl Lyrica Nanaha movie, the first, which was actually to this date my first and only anime import.
Wow.
Let's see.
I think mine was Saikano.
I have 0 anime imports, surprisingly.
That was my first and only.
Let's
I
see.
have a lot of figurines, which I've imported. You know, if I had more money, I probably would actually import anime, but I just don't have that kind of money.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I would say it's totally not worth it, except maybe for Ghibli stuff, because the release schedules in the U.S. for Ghibli stuff are all over the place.
Well, I was only the stuff I would import really only be the stuff that never gets released over. Is really all I'd be importing.
Well, that's really a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because there are some shows that never got released over here that I would have liked to own, you know, at least a copy of.
Yeah.
I would love to get a copy of Umegaki Goeru.
Well, you probably still can if
True.
you import it.
True.
It's on the one hand, it's unfortunate that we never got it over here, but honestly, it's a TV special. It's not the sort of thing that Disney can really market effectively.
True.
And that's why it wasn't even part of the deal.
It was probably just like.
But you know, it's not super hard to get a regionless DVD player, so it's okay, really.
That is true. How about you, Dorian? What was your first?
My first tape, oh, it takes me back. I can't even remember my first tape. Because the first tape I actually brought was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. That was
Wow.
Yeah. Look, I was like 9, 10 years old, okay? And, but the first tape, I remember my mom for Christmas brought me the two Pokemon VHS tapes. And then for anime, the first DVD that I brought was which one was it? I think it wasn't Dragon Ball Z. It was Kitty Grade. It's like my first DVD.
I actually liked that show.
I
I liked it a lot.
It was a fun show.
Never watched it.
I had to look past, that director's habits, but
Yeah. But, yeah, that was like the first one I bought. I haven't brought a Blu-ray yet. I do plan on buying. I've just been being a cheap person. But yeah, I do plan on buying.
Let's see.
that was one of the first shows that I think at the time that Funimation was they were the first ones to get that show, actually. And at the time, they weren't like the uber force for good and rescuer of anime in the U.S. That was a little bit before all of that went down.
People still hated them because they sold edited DBZ.
Yeah.
People were still pissed that they even put them Blu-rays out of the orange boxes. People were still pissed at that.
Well, to be fair, DBZ will sell.
Yeah.
Even if it's hacked to absolute shit because it's DBZ.
Well, those Blu-rays of the original of I think was the level ones they tried to sell when they did that high grade restoration. I mean, that didn't sell for some reason. And then people get pissed like, oh, well, they're selling the orange box. It's like, well, DBC will sell. You didn't buy the level sets when they came out. It's like,
I mean,
that's why. And because I watched I think it was their presentation there at Otakon Vegas. They did like a live stream of it, and I knew this beforehand because people got pissed. And just Rojas set up there, hey, if you like them orange boxes, this is for you. Which I thought they were fine, and you could still sell them. If you buy a whole bunch of them cheap, you could sell them easily, because I used to own all them, and back kind of before the economy shit the bed a few years ago, I listed them up on eBay, on Amazon, and I think in a day or two I sold all that I had. And everywhere. I sold a bunch over here. Funny in a way, I actually sold a bunch to some people stationed in the Navy in Japan. I sold some over there.
Oh wow,
interesting.
Well, see, because on the bay, because I I've been to Japan before, for some of you who don't know. And I stayed on one of our Navy bases. Well, they sell stuff like we have. They sell Blu-ray players and DVD players, but they're all like for Region 1. They're Region 1 Blu-ray players. Because if you go off base and go around, and I remember this, I'd walk off base and they'd sell video games, and you'd see a sign and say in English, it says, will not play on, these games will not play on PS2's on base. In English. Because different regions, so... And I've heard people, and I had somebody, I think it was on one of the Ancasts, they did a call-out show to somebody who was in the Navy, and they asked about it, he's like, oh yeah, anime's huge in there. Like I said, I sold a couple, like I said, I've sold some anime to people over, stationed in some of our bases in Japan. So, which is kind of, like I said, kind of irony in itself, but yeah, because I'm just, them orange boxes, if you ever buy, a whole bunch of them cheap, you can turn them around and probably make, at least make your money back, or just a small profit.
Absolutely. I remember when I was working in retail, I was there when, Target first started selling anime, and when it started purging anime. The only stuff we kept were 2 titles, Fullmetal Alchemist, and it was orange boxes, because, come the end of the week, those orange boxes were gone, those FMA DVDs were gone.
Well, FMA's pretty popular. I've never actually seen them myself.
Watch Brotherhood. Don't watch the original.
Oh.
And DBZ, well, people complain about them orange box sets. Okay, yeah, they're not the best sets out there.
No.
And like I said, Funimation tried with doing basically those level sets, and luring people didn't buy them. Maybe it's because they didn't put enough episodes in it, or do it like the orange box and set them by season, which I think may have been a better option. Maybe if they do well enough with these sets they're releasing now, that they can go back and actually do a proper release at some point for those who want them.
Right. With the level sets at the time too, people seem to forget that at that point Blu-ray was still fairly new.
Yeah.
And mastering a Blu-ray was incredibly expensive compared to DVDs, so...
Yeah.
Even if it sold decently, it probably had to sell beyond decent to make its money back.
Yeah, and people weren't really buying it, and, I know people got pissed at it. I wanted to see it succeed, too.
Right.
Maybe if they do it with these level sets that people seem to be pissed about, and they're selling, people are buying them, if they do well enough, they get enough money to go back and say, okay, and by then probably the cost of that restoration will probably go down a bit. They can go back and say, hey, you know what, we're going to do the sort of like the Dragon boxes again, but on Blu-ray, we're going to do these level sets again on Blu-ray, because now we got, maybe the stuff's cheaper and we got the money now, we can do it.
I would like to float a theory that the Japanese are not concerned about the cost of producing a Blu-ray so much as the fact that we're all in the same region. That seems to always be the issue, that they never want to authorize a Blu-ray release.
Well, that's why we have the new trend of locked subtitles.
Or you have like Kodakawa, and they cock block it, so let us do DVD release, and then in a year or two you get the Blu-ray.
Or even worse are those cases where I remember Bandai getting stuck in this pretty badly, where they'd release a Blu-ray, but it was dub only.
I can deal with the locked subtitles. That seems like a minor inconvenience for me. But anytime now, I see Kodakawa now, and I just sort of cringe, because it's like a show, for example, Inari Con, which one of the shows I'm watching this season is a Kodakawa video, and I just see that, and every time I see that thing that come up, part of me cringes, because I'm like, oh, they're gonna, when this comes out, it's gonna be, they're gonna Kodakawa's gonna cock block us and go, oh, you're only gonna get a DVD set, and then later they'll let us get the Blu-ray rights, because that was sort of like with, Is This a Zombie? They only released it on DVD. And then they just, they're going to put out the classic or anime classics version, and it's going to have Blu-ray on it. So I'm fine. I'm like, okay, now they're cock blocking. So maybe they're finally going to start getting some of these shows get Blu-rays because a lot of them do deserve it.
Just like Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. When it came out, it's a Kadokawa show, so
Yeah.
I remember there being that giant uproar about it being DVD only. I mean,
Yeah.
about a year later, I finally got the Blu-rays in, and it's like, I can see why they're afraid of the reverse importers, but at the same time, it can be a hassle to do that depending on their country's customs laws. So
it's a silly fear, to be honest.
It is. I mean, and
the potential market in the U.S. is 3 times larger as the potential market in Japan. So any concerns of reverse importation is just it's just superstition. It's irrational fear and has no place in business decisions.
I mean, not to interrupt you there, Matt, there are people Japanese who do actually import from the United States. There are that.
Of course there are. Otherwise there would be no fear. But how many?
Yeah.
Literally, how many people are doing this? That's the issue.
Honestly, sorry.
Talking over here because I've heard people say, "Well, you see how high it is on Amazon Japan, and it's like an R1 release or something." That's showing you it's a big concern. I'm like, I don't necessarily think that's a big concern because some of the shows like Clannad, that's sold really well in Japan. I couldn't see too many people run into reverse import, or you could sort of do in the case of like Aniplex does, where you can only say it could be bought in 1 or 2 places, and we can't import it out. So that's not really technically stopping it. Somebody could still do it through something like proxy, like say have somebody over here buy it, and then somebody in Japan give that person in the United States the money, and then that person in the United States sends it to them in Japan. I mean, that's
well, I'd like to
more convoluted.
If you've ever bought cells before, that's kind of how it works. You have to go through a deputy service. So I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if there was something on the other end to do the same thing around here.
Yeah.
I'd like to float another thing that they should be concerned about. They should be concerned about American anime fans not buying the Blu-ray at all because it took too long to come out and people just downloaded the fan sub, which is already in HD.
Or they just watched it on Crunchyroll and forgot the DVDs existed.
That too.
I mean, honestly, these fears are incredibly stupid because if a person's going to go to the effort to reverse import the show, they're at least getting some form of money back. I mean, your average person is going to just hit, is it Perfect Dark in Japan? Wherever your popular file sharing networks are, and pull it down from there and not pay a dime if they're going to go that route. It's absolutely freaking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And maybe Kadokawa is going to get off that thought train soon. I mean, I might be wrong. I hope I am, because I do want it. Because, like, there are shows that I bought, like, DVD only. Now, I'll go back and buy them once the Blu-rays come out. Like, for example, a certain Scientific Railgun, I bought the DVDs for that. And I'm going to buy, when the Blu-rays come out, if they do, I will buy those. I did the same thing for Future Diary. I bought the DVDs. If the Blu-ray release comes out, I will buy that. Right. Because it's not like Funimation doesn't have the HD versions of their shows. They do. It's just they're only streaming.
They just have no right. They have no right to sell them right now.
They don't have the Blu-ray rights. They have because they, like, for example, with both those shows I just mentioned, a certain Scientific Railgun and Dead Man Wonderland. You hop on either on Funimation's website or their mobile app or even the Roku app. You can watch those shows in HD and dubbed, with dubbed in HD or subbed in HD if you prefer that. They do have the HD version. It's just they don't have the rights for the Blu-ray yet. So I hope this trend does kind of start to die down because it is kind of stupid. I'm kind of neutral in the lock subs. I think that's like crying over spilled milk, but I could see if you do like watching your sub, watching Japanese without the subtitles on. That could be annoying, but a lot of it I just think, like I said, it's just spilled milk.
I'm gonna say it now. As someone that screen caps these for reviews, it is annoying as shit.
Yeah, and I know that. I know that. It's hard like me because I want to do comparisons. Say,
right.
Okay, sub-dub comparison. I can't do it. In the last couple of reviews I've had to do, I couldn't do it for Mocking Key because it was subtitle locked, which
Right.
I'm not sure why. I mean,
What?
I don't know how it's sold in Japan, but I couldn't see too many people running to reverse import that. I digress.
I think it's nice for review purposes that I can just pick a sub or a dub, and in a lot of cases they'll be equally good now. It just depends on the style of the show, which one I choose. But to be fair, I mostly choose the subs because that's what I'm used to.
I just do both because that's just how I do things. That's how I roll. I just do both because it's like, well, people want to know both. You know, there are people who want to know, like, okay, the sub quality. There are those who want to know, okay, is the dub good? You know, and then there's both. You know, both fall in that same category, and I just happen to do both because I'm trying to you know, maybe I'm trying to appease everybody too much, but that's just how I do things.
It would.
Because I mean, if I remember correctly, when Persona 4 was released in DVD and Blu-ray, they had nothing but the dubs, and there was no subs on the DVDs.
I think that was the Blu-ray.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
the DVDs I think had both.
Okay,
Blu-rays had.
Because I think that was also Kadokawa, wasn't it?
I'm sure there was a giant nerd outrage for that.
It was.
You'd be amazed.
Well, if it wasn't giant, then I wouldn't be amazed. Wait. If it was giant, I would... You know what I'm saying.
Persona 4, the animation was... AIC. Huh. My guess is... That's an unusual one, actually. That is an unusual one, and I don't remember the exact circumstances as to why.
I can't remember either. That was what? At least a year.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. I remember there being an uproar about it, but honestly, I hated Persona 4, so I kind of ignored the show. Come at me, bros. I hated Persona 4. I thought it was garbage.
And he's now just waiting for the rage.
Oh, yeah.
I could turn that rage on me if I want, because I never experienced any of the Persona franchise.
Neither have I.
People will be more willing to accept that you haven't played it than people that sit there and say they hated it.
Do that.
Well, I could say something like I never went through any of it because I just assumed it's crap, and then people would hate me.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I could go into a rant on my thoughts on that show, but I'll be nice. I'll behave. But yeah, I mean, I remember the rage. I remember the people being upset, but then hated Persona 4, so I just said, "Oh, not my problem," and away it went. All right, moving along back to the flow of things. Man, we kind of got away from that a while ago, but
Yeah.
Getting way off topic.
yeah, but we're getting some good conversations out of it, so it's all cool. All right, getting back on topic, Nikkei reported that Attack on Titan's manga adaptation has sold over 30 million copies. Well, it hasn't sold. It has over 30 million copies in print in Japan. And in addition, it's sold through 660,000 copies in America, 530,000 in South Korea, and 420,000 in Taiwan, adding easily another 1.5 million units. In addition, the anime series, whose first volume sold 100,000 copies in Japan already, is currently available in 30 countries. So, any thoughts on the sales figure?
Obviously, it's doing very well.
Yeah, it's certainly impressive.
I mean, especially the North American number. I didn't think it would be that big, to be honest. I thought it'd be somewhere in 400. I thought it'd be somewhere at 400,000. Not near 600.
Yeah, 600,000 is immense. If I remember correctly, about a month and a half ago, it actually secured like half of the top 10 bestsellers on the BookScan ratings.
Oh wow!
Was that a month? It was maybe a 2. It wasn't very long ago, but it seems like that and Sailor Moon seem to be the two titles that just dominate the charts.
Well, Sailor Moon's pretty.
Sailor Moon.
Well, Well, yeah, that's a pretty popular Western fan base.
Yeah, Sailor Moon, Sailor Moon. So
Yeah, so it's
that
going to sell. Just kind of plaster the name there, or just say, and it's like, hey, Sailor Moon, it sells. And Attack on Titan again. It's sold like gangbusters. The anime at least did.
mm,
And the manga is selling well too. I really don't. I hope it does well here too in the United States. And because I keep hearing things like I don't know when Funimation is going to put it out. I think maybe summer. I'm hearing maybe they might start putting out in summer or springtime.
I've heard summer myself.
I think that'd be a good time to do it.
Yeah, because the 3 month at this point, I have not seen any listings for it, but
well, there is that kind of that thing on Amazon for pre-order,
yeah,
but I don't know about that.
nah, I mean Amazon estimates.
Yeah.
Let's see. All they have is just a general fuzzy date now. Like we don't even know. Just buy it. Buy it. Buy it.
It's sort of like Media Blasters releases. They just kind of give it. Rice that just kind of puts a placeholder date and it'll get released someday.
Right. Well, the problem is Media Blasters are actually meant to be release dates.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's I said I've told people before. I said I won't believe that Media Blasters has a product until it's out, and then I actually physically see the said product. Then I'll believe it's out, and I have it in my hands. Then I'll believe they released something.
Exactly. I mean, even then, there are titles where they just stop. Like, halfway through, they just stop. Like, Viz in the 90s style. Like, you'd think if they're actively releasing a series, people are asking for the series, they'd keep putting out. But, I mean...
Or get something and then go,
yeah.
oh, well, we don't have a license anymore. Like they sort of did with the third season of Vicky Towson, where they're like, oh, we don't have it anymore. And then it was like almost not long after they said it, Funimation goes, oh, yeah, we have it now. Like,
or,
well, that was quick.
What about Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei?
I've never seen that. That's one of them shows it'll never get released. Nobody will ever pick it up. Because, I mean, it's...
Media Blasters had it.
Wow, yeah.
At one point.
They don't have it anymore.
At one point.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Sentai could get it, because that's not a show that you can dub. That's just undubbable.
No, it's a funny show, but it's one that you can't...
Right.
It's one that's so far out of the main... Like, the mainstream core that it's too Japanese.
Or maybe even, Zomi could get it. Just put out a sub on one of that, or they're...
I'd get behind it.
Set and just put a...
Lucky Penny.
Just put it, just maybe throw in some translator notes and sell it. So here you go. Because people seem to want to buy it. I've never seen the show myself, but...
It is a funny show. It's a lot of fun. Very dark sense of humor to it.
I've seen clips from it. It's very funny.
Like one of the first episodes, it shows the teacher walking in, and he says, "I'm sorry, everyone. The train was running late," and everyone gets deathly quiet because when they say the train's running late, it usually means someone jumped in front of the train, and he has to actually say, "No, not like that," and everyone just kind of acts like normal.
Reminds me of Great Teacher Onizuka. One of the running maybe for an episode, one of the jokes in that show was they called people who ran in front of trains tuna, and one of the teacher's jobs when he was away from the school for a short while was cleaning tuna off the tracks.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, thinking about it, I'd probably say the best hands for that would be someone like, say, Nozomi or their budget label, Lucky Penny, because it's one of those shows that it doesn't have the mainstream appeal, but there's definitely a core appeal that they want and they love it.
Or another choice would be doing some kind of like, maybe either Nozomi or one of them groups do like a Kickstarter program and say, hey, you want this, here's a goal, like Anime Souls is sort of doing with their...
Right.
They're doing, but that they mostly are just sticking to older stuff. Yeah. Of course, Animego did that thing with the
Bubblegum Crisis.
So I mean, maybe that might be an option too. But I mean, maybe I'm just kind of grasping at straws. Maybe I'm just grasping at straws here, but that might be an option too.
It could be, but the thing with Bubblegum Crisis was they actually already had the license, so it was a lot easier.
Yeah, they had the license, so it was just kind of, well, hey, you want this. You don't want this Blu-ray?
I'm actually am part of the forums for the Kickstarter. It's a really interesting process because you get to see some of the stuff going into it. Like one of the things they're actually negotiating for is the the original Bubblegum Crisis the pen and paper RPG. They're actually like costing out how much it would cost to get the rights for that in PDF form for the Blu-rays, stuff like that. Like because it's going to be a just a one run disc set that they're kind of going all out with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying this selfishly in hopes that more people throw money into it because
Well, I've never seen Bubblegum Crisis, so
it is great.
What?
It is one of the best.
What?
I'm not. Do I have to repeat myself? I said I've never seen Bubblegum Crisis. There.
What?
Don't make me repeat myself.
Honestly,
You can repeat yourself all you want. It'll just look bad for you.
Oh,
Well,
I think for me, I've just been late. It's on Netflix. I've been lazy and watching it.
actually, Netflix is the quote unquote remake / reboot 2040, which is still very good.
Yeah, 2040 is good.
2040 was
I
actually.
think I started by watching that and watched the original somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, 2040 had a stronger story in my opinion than the originals, but the originals had just a much grittier, much darker, much higher production values, and a kick-ass soundtrack.
I'm gonna boil it down for you. The OVA version appreciated rock and roll, and the AIC version was a more typical anime.
That works.
I would like to make. Well, I should have chimed in before, but I'm tempted to make the joke that hey, Media Blasters, who are they?
yeah.
But I think looking at everything that's happened in the last few years, I think the real question is, why aren't all of them in trouble? And there's explanations that sort of make sense. Somehow Funimation was able to convince the licensors to accept low prices for a ridiculous number of shows, but it still doesn't really explain totally to me why they were able to get those low prices exclusively, and nobody else really got those prices. Like Funimation rescued everything,
And at the same time, ADV was they were kind of
yeah. I mean,
sucking into paying these like obscene prices for shows like Kurao Phantom Memory, was it? I think it is something like that. Was like $1 million an episode.
I mean, after
that one show they pay like almost $1 million for. It's like, wow. I'm like, as I saw those numbers, I'm like, wow, no wonder they went under.
Yeah,
Some of these shows they paid for. I mean, some of them I know were good shows, but not they were good, but not probably that good for that price.
I mean, even after ADV shed all of their bad assets and became Sentai in Section 23, essentially.
Actually, ADV still exists.
Yeah, I know.
I did a whole research thing on that. They exist only as an entity to be sued at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they might as well not exist.
Right.
I mean, when I say they shed all of their bad assets, I don't mean they shut down any of the companies.
Right.
No, they just sold them themselves.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to say is, it must come down to like politics at this point, right? Because maybe nobody wants to deal with John Ledford, even though he can sell some shows just as well as Gen Fukunaga can.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was a huge factor because, especially in the business world, the people you trust, the people that you trust and work with, are more than likely the ones that you're going to make friends with, and
it's kind of what I was getting at. I think that sort of thing matters more to Japanese businessmen than it does to American businessmen.
Oh yeah.
Which I wouldn't doubt that it does.
Yeah, because remember, Funimation only really existed so that Dragon Ball could get his Gen Fukunaga. I guess I don't know if an uncle or relative of his worked on the original Dragon Ball series, and he wanted to bring it over. And they said, "Well, if you start a company, we can help you, and that's why they got created, so they can bring Dragon Ball.
Half the stuff in this is going to the show notes. Trust me.
For those who are listening, and you'll see this, it's a picture of one of the Titans from Attack on Titan running, but its head is replaced with Justin Bieber's head, like, put on sideways and smiling.
You can't stick Titan Bieber out. He's being deported.
He doesn't look drunk enough or driving.
Well, he's not. Yeah, he's not beating up somebody. He's not beating up a cab driver or eating a cab driver.
I really can't see Justin Bieber beating up anybody, even if it happened.
One of his limo driver.
Yeah.
I think I'll back up in Canada.
Okay, so the guy is driving and Bieber
sorry.
fucking punches him while he's driving? That's the only way I could see that happening.
I am sorry, Canada, but the pop star you sent us is broken. Please take him back.
I've always told my parents, I said, he's the kind of person that if Subway Rehab still exists when he's 30, he'll be on there.
Oh, yeah.
If he's even still alive by then, or anybody gives a shit about him by then, because I really don't know anybody who does.
I am sorry, Canada, but your pop star is broken. Please take him back.
Take all of them back. All.
What do you call a rude Canadian? An American.
Oh.
That reminds me of a joke my French teacher in high school told us. If you could speak 3 languages, you're trilingual. If you could speak 2 languages, you're bilingual. And if you could speak 1 language, you're an American.
Pretty much.
I'm just going to go ahead and open my participation by noting that Rob Ford is better than every single American.
We don't have too many.
It's a good note.
Crackhead mayors.
Had to be reminded. That guy is the pinnacle of humanity right there.
Yes, he is.
There is no getting better than that, just the faces he makes.
Alright, and just joining us now is one of our reviewers, Ben Fennell. Ben, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us what you've been watching and favorite show?
Let's see here. Well, I've been around for way too long at this point, obviously. Having been writing since the anime Dream days back in 2002. But anyway, I haven't kept up with any of the more recent shows, but I did actually recently read, and just finished literally a few hours ago, Satoshi Kon's Tropic of the Sea manga as my first manga reading in a good while. And it was his original first long-form work from back in 1990, which is a fairly by-the-books environmentalist tale, but it's Satoshi Kon, so it's still very entertaining anyway for what it is, and he even has a nice retrospective from a 1999 reprint at the end of the book that Vertical translated that was interesting to read since he had written basically sort of a look back on everything just after he'd finished Perfect Blue as well and made the transition from mangaka to director, so that was well worth reading, I thought. And probably overall favorite show, somewhere between Infinite Revice and the Crest and Banner of the Stars universe now, anyway.
Yeah.
So, do you think we're going to get more Crest anytime soon?
I hope so, but it's hard to say, because I can't think of anything notable, I guess, that Sunrise has done in recent years, except for maybe Tiger and Bunny, in terms of even these kinds of sci-fi shows they were doing in the late 90s and early 2000s. They've launched a new manga adaptation of it fairly recently in Japan, though it's restarted with Crest, but I would kill for them to actually get back to reanimating it, whether they pick up where they left off or they just go ahead and restart from the beginning and just do one long epic show, as they really could do if they wanted to.
Yeah, as you guys know, I have a soft spot for Crest of the Stars. It's like the Worlds Apart story in its purest form, and it just keeps its integrity through everything that happens. It's really just about 2 people, and everything going on is interesting, but it all circles back to how the 2 of them react to it, and it's fantastic. And I really wish that they would release the 3rd OVA. I think it was just 2 episodes.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And then, yeah, this show has this genuine affection for its characters. It treats them as human beings of real intelligence and with real experiences, and you rarely see that in anime these days, and it respects its viewers as well. And a lot of the time you kind of feel like a lot of the anime you get these days, obviously, I guess, going back to the subject of Miyazaki calling out otaku culture earlier that I wasn't present for, of course, we have this issue now where so much of anime is sort of getting, in many respects at times, dumber and isn't really particularly interested in respecting the intelligence or integrity of its characters or that of its viewers, and it's all about sort of awkward pander so much of the time.
Yeah, we kind of went over that.
Yeah, I kind of figured as much, given that I'm jumping in late.
Well, it's in a nutshell, we talked about how Miyazaki had, he appreciated the challenges of TV animation and lambasted them anyway for I don't know, being weak.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I mean, he started out with like Future Boy Conan back in the day, and even that was a classic. So, I mean, I feel like while there's a lot of challenges that come with obviously getting into TV anime, you can still do better than just creating, a lazy crap that's just there for easy cashing in and pandering to a certain kind of fetishized crowd,
You mean shows can exist without girls with giant jugs that play guitars?
Exactly. Not everything needs to be Supersonico.
As we all know, it's Mike's favorite show of the season.
Oh,
Right.
If I could
back to there.
if I could hate someone to death, it would be the person that made that show a reality.
All I can say is just wait for all of the god-awful Supersonico Sonic the Hedgehog crossover fan art.
Oh, Jesus.
What?
It's only a matter of time, and you know it.
It's only
It's only a matter of time until Mike takes a picture where he bought 10 copies of Supersonic for Sentai Filmworks.
You want to know something? Knowing my luck, we'll post this up and someone will send me 10 copies just to piss me off.
They'll send you they'll send a little greeting card attached to it, and it'll just say "For you" in giant caps.
Yeah, and Mike's also then going to do a full. When that happens, then Mike will do a nice big long review of the show.
Try to do a viral YouTube video just smashing the discs.
That would be hysterical.
It'd be like Office Space. Just confused.
That's right.
So it'll be Sonico / random clamp female character or shoot, what was the other thing I was thinking of?
It'll be Sonico's last stand, god damn it.
Damn, it feels good to hate my hobby.
Well, I don't hate the hobby. I just hate shit like that.
And that's a lot of it.
Oh, Type Moon. That was the other thing I was thinking of. Random clamp or Type Moon female character / Sonico.
They'll all be vampires somehow.
Oh.
They already are. They suck the soul from people.
There we go. They already disregard all the laws that made vampires interesting, too. I mean, at least when they died in the sunlight, you had an easy way of getting rid of them.
Style is all that matters. If they don't die stylishly, they can't die.
Yeah. That's why you light them up with C4 and just say so.
Well, no, you nuke them from over.
That's like, we can beat sunlight.
Vampires that can only be defeated by through explosives.
Yeah, because remember, if aliens invade your colonizing thing, just nuke them. It's the only way to be sure.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't care about the damn legends.
You have to nuke them from orbit. That's the only way to be sure.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Make sure that there is no life that can grow there or thrive there for the next 5,000 years at least.
Yeah. Okay, Starbuck.
We're going the wrong way.
Oh, hey, I'm dead, lol. Gonna go back to being dead.
Abruptly vanishes. It's like, it's a cool ending, right?
My work here is finished. And hey, I never existed in the first place. See ya.
Enjoy hanging out
Like
in your
my
cabin
homework.
alone, Edward James Olmos.
Like, I must go. My homeworld needs me. Yeah.
It's
No, he
Died
got
all the way back to his own planet.
Yep.
awkwardly edited out.
He's dead. We got this paper saying that he'll never come back.
Back. Yay!
Except he did come back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Only get run over in a Halloween special.
No, they showed him at one of the funerals in a future episode.
Oh, they have.
That was, yeah.
If you touch that clock, you'll never come back.
No, it was one of the Halloween specials they did where Bart Lisa won an Itchy Scratchy cartoon and they ran him over.
He
Anyway,
wasn't too proactive for that.
no, it wasn't.
That was a very proactive conversation.
Yes, it was.
Oh, there was one more thing. The Yuu Watase thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We had one more topic to actually hit. This one actually came out after I sent out the agendas. For tonight's recording. A couple days ago, Yuu Watase, on her personal blog, wrote openly about some negative experiences with a former editor for her current manga, Errata the Legend, saying that during the early phases, she'd pretty much wake up with headaches, feeling overwhelmed, confused, and staying up all night to get pages for the next day, until she came to the conclusion that her exhaustion was being from the fact that her editor was being a bit too active about things and asking her to redraw pretty much everything from scratch.
In South Park terms, a giant douche.
Exactly.
Not a turd or a turd sandwich. I guess either applies.
Exactly. Basically, she said she had a story, and she had already discussed the plot with the publisher, and the editor, but the editor consistently bulldozed her ideas to make room for his own. Continuously asked her to redraw layouts, redraw scenes, redraw pages, and the editor didn't like anything that the editor didn't like. He just asked her to throw it right out. Even if she insisted they were pivotal, his response was, "Draw exactly as I tell you." Apparently, she got a new editor for the new arc, but this was something that went up and let's see, and it was taken down. It was just actually kind of interesting that she'd air her dirty laundry about this in public because it goes against a lot of the Japanese business culture. So I just wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, and you have a dual point. It does go against kind of not just business culture, but even you sort of see this too in. Okay, I'll put this as manga. You sort of see in anime, people really don't make, they don't say things, they don't criticize the business story, and you really only see a couple people do it, like Miyazaki. He says stuff, but it's just Miyazaki. Yamakan, who's another director, he does occasionally criticize the anime industry from time to time, and you don't really see this and not really just in the anime business. You also see this too in Japanese business about don't make waves, don't rock the boat, So something like this to come out, which we know there are people who would be stressed out about or even pissed off about how things are done. You don't see this too often. I mean, I don't say we need to see everybody run and go, oh yeah, my editor was a douchebag, or my editor was an asshole. We don't need every mangaka to come out and say this, ones who've had bad experiences. I don't necessarily think it's wrong to say stuff, but then also at the same point, you got to take into consideration is that, okay, I say this could potentially also affect me down the road because, okay, I said something bad about somebody. Maybe somebody that they know might not be willing to work with them, or these publishing companies might be fearful to work with somebody out of fear. Well, they're going to start criticizing things and start making waves, and we don't want that.
Right.
We don't want anyone we don't want anyone rocking the boat. Because again, that's how things are done in Japan with business-wise. They don't rock the boat. You don't make waves. You don't say anything. You don't try to, I don't want to say make a scene, but you don't try to make a scene. So something like these are occasionally nice to see, albeit you're only going to maybe see it every now and then. And you don't really see that here. I mean, you have people complain, but in the West, I think that's more accepted to hear criticisms of how things are done. You hear directors say, "Oh, it was terrible work with this actor," or "Oh, I didn't like working with this editor." Or this company's a pain to work with. This is accepted here. I shouldn't say accepted, but it's more tolerated here in the West. I'm not sure about Europe, how they flow, but at least here in the United States, and maybe I don't know about Canada, it's more, you hear that more often from entertainment, but you don't really hear that all that often, again, with the exception of maybe a couple people out of Japan. What's everyone else's thoughts on this?
Absolutely. Actually, while before we go further, apparently, Akira Toriyama had issues with an editor in a similar way, to the point where he actually started injecting the character into his titles as antagonists just to piss him off. Like Dr. Mascherito and King Piccolo were based off of the guy.
Revenge.
Anyway, yeah. What's everyone else's thoughts?
Really, it's not new. I've heard of this type of behavior before, where you have editors would put pressure on the manga writers and artists. I mean, I've heard one story where the editor actually slept outside the artist's room and got up and made him breakfast and stuff so they could finish the story. So I'm not surprised. I mean, but it's not good. But I'm not surprised at all.
Matt or Benji?
I guess I'd say, if anything, it just kind of reveals the need for maybe a little bit more flexibility within this kind of culture in the first place, too, where after a certain point when your business relationship starts to borderline on harassment or completely undermining what the creator is trying to do in the first place, there's definitely some room for change there. You know, you would think maybe some kind of contract or something for what's considered acceptable conduct and what isn't, though obviously the anime and manga industries are pretty unusual industries in many respects in the first place, too, in terms of the kinds of productions they do, and overextension of the talent in the first place, too. I was actually just even reading about Satoshi Kon's sort of commentary at the end of that graphic novel I read, and he talked about how he basically destroyed his health actually writing it, since he had almost no assistants working with him on it, and he would basically spend all week writing the next chapter so it could be published in the next week's manga release, but then he would be drinking hard every night as soon as he finished working, just to sort of get stress out, and then by the time he was done, he ended up in the hospital.
I was going to say it sounded like he ultimately had destroyed his health completely.
Mm.
Yeah, that's basically what he did.
Yeah, but this also seems very common for other manga artists because, you know, people say, oh, they take time out due to illness, you know, or some, you know, and you're also seeing a lot, like last year or the year before, a lot of these people die, you know, either these mangaka or these light novel writers, you know, they're dying like in their 40s or 30s.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting ill, you know, they get sick and they're, dying. It's like,
yeah, there's something very unhealthy within that culture that definitely could stand to be re-examined. I mean, we even saw Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter creator Yoshihiro Togashi basically drop out for years where he was ill, but we never really knew what the nature of his illness was. But there was a question of whether or not he was dying because we didn't get any news, and he was just a non-presence who would rarely release a chapter of Hunter x Hunter, and that was it.
That is true. And even then, I mean, wow, I just lost my thought.
Yeah, it's this whole thing of overworking or karoshi. It's not a new not just in anime, but just mostly in the business environment there, point blank period.
Yeah, and the karoshi concept, like you said. Working to death. Yeah, it's something that they need to re-examine on a pretty deep cultural level.
Yeah, it gets pretty bad when, people don't leave the office. They just sleep
on
in
the
the
desk.
office. Yeah. Or something. Yeah, sleep on the desk.
Exactly. That's not exactly much of a quality of life when you get down to it.
And this is also a culture where if someone finishes early, it's seen as completely inappropriate to leave on time if everyone else is working late.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of pressure to do those things, like to sleep in the office, to stay and work until you're absolutely collapsing, because otherwise you're seen as a bad worker and dead weight, even if you're doing everything you're supposed to.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of there's this this subversion of individuality in response to the community that you surround yourself with, having to sort of merge and meld yourself into that community as part of a whole as opposed to looking out simply for your own interest and your own health and your own life outside of the workplace as well, which is an interesting contrast to Europe too, where people get a certain number of weeks of paid time every year, and they
Mandatory.
they spend much more time valuing leisure and quality of life in the first place.
Let me check. I think Japan has at least 2 weeks required.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, just to catch you up, Ben, we were talking about the show Nobunaga the Fool earlier, and
It's basically Japanese history with Kobus.
yeah,
Interesting.
they're very Kobu-like robots, but
Oh yeah, for
the one that Nobunaga gets a hold of is decidedly un-Kobu-like, which is supposed to mean that it's more advanced or something.
He gets his own Evangelion and just kicks the Cobra.
Oh yeah, for those who don't know, Kobu are the mechanized power suits from the Soccer Wars series.
Like steam powered too, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
steam and psychic powered. Yes,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Steam bots.
they were designed by Kanzaki Heavy Industries. Yes.
There we go.
Don't ask. I will go into a good 4-hour rant about the series.
Why would you? It's fucking Steam. That's
No,
all you need to know. Seriously. The steampunk, the entire thing about steampunk is that
Steam.
there's these devices that are entirely improbable and probably impossible that are powered by steam. Done.
All the robots and steam detectives are self-aware somehow, even though there's no explanation for it.
That is one of the creepiest things.
Steam world.
Yes.
Are you sure those aren't powered by mist?
Oh.
Here we go.
Oh.
Maybe fog.
Yeah, but it has to be steam powered. It has to have the gaming.
There you go. Give them the steam, then put giant drills on them and see what happens.
As I was saying, they're
Oh, Gurren Lagann is what happens, right? Just
There we
checking
go.
up.
Pierce the heavens, everybody dies.
Row, fight the power. This is how our podcasts work.
It started off about
No, I think it's gone really well tonight. I'm just
yeah.
going to say that.
It really has.
We've had our moments though.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
But
If podcasts were rail shooters, we'd be going way off the rails and just shooting up towns instead of the bag. That's Bump with a B, Tumperton with a T.
What the fuck is a line barrel anyway?
I don't know and I don't care.
I know it's made of iron.
Whatever works.
It's a line drawing of a barrel somehow made out of iron. It's the most inconvenient way to do one.
No,
It's a metaphor
that's
for-
something that's funny about anime for me. That there's this huge disconnect between what's good in anime and what's good in music that is made for anime. Because that show has 2 theme songs from Maya Sakamoto, who is like sort of a superstar but not really. And the show is absolute crap.
Well, it's a B Train show. What do you expect?
Yeah, it's kind of just common knowledge at this
I
point.
mean, everything they do is crap.
I'm not passing judgment on, I'm not saying the show is
You're not saying it's
surprising or
bad,
anything. It's just that this seems to happen so many times, like especially with what I'll call Yoko Kanno's crew. Like even Yoko Kanno herself, she wrote this amazing music for what was it, Brain Powered,
Yeah, I was thinking
and
that.
the show is absolute shit.
Well,
and
the manga was
the
like
music
coherent,
was
too.
reused in the likes of Iron Chef and like respectable shows.
Well, B Train
Yeah, I
did
remember
Noir, and that was a pretty good show. At least I thought it was.
They
Sure.
did what?
Noir.
Yeah, I hesitate to admit it, but I liked a significant part of Noir, although not all of it.
Your credibility has been ruined, you
Let's see.
realize.
Let's
Turn
see.
into-
I think I've seen. I think I've said the same thing before, and I would say the same thing about Madlax. I really loved one character, and I hated the other, and of course, the one that I hated wound up being the only one that was real.
Pretty much. Shoot, Mad Lax was one of the biggest disappointments ever. Because that first episode was simply divine. I mean, it was everything just seemed to hit perfectly, right down to that extended gunplay sequence. It was just so fun to watch. Then you realize that this ain't the real show.
Yep.
They're just trying to trick you into getting hooked.
Pretty much. I mean, it actually, once I got to episode 2, it pissed me off more than anything. Let's see.
I'm
there
glad
were shows
this
that
stuff
I
is
cared
still
about.
alive.
Like, this season's over, and like I told somebody, when I'm more interested in a character that doesn't talk than the rest of the cast, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because they had a wallaby, and I was really interested in that character. I was the only character I was interested in was the wallaby. I wasn't interested in the rest of the cast.
It's like watching Thundercats for Snarf.
Snarf, snarf.
That's a bad thing. You're watching Thundercats for Snarf.
Well, Robot Chicken told us what happened to Snarf.
They set it up when they remade it, too.
Like, I mean, B-Train, it's kind of sad because I mean, this is a company that was headed by someone that did some really interesting stuff. I mean, this was headed by Koichi Mashima, who directed things like let's see, he directed Dirty Pair Project Eden, Dominion Tank Police, Irresponsible Captain Tyler. If you have not seen that, I will hit you.
Yeah, it's a classic show.
The original Eat Man OVA, was it
Yeah.
OVA?
Classico.
I believe the originals were an OVA, and then it was a TV series for the 98 series.
Hey, I was the reason that you saw the OVA for Tyler, Michael.
Yes, I know. I thank you for that.
And that's also another show that actually I want to interject here that Kyoto Animation did help on.
Hmm.
I think they did In Between. Or,
Yeah, I think they did the tweens on that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows, like I said, that they worked
You
on
know.
before they became a full-fledged
Back in the day when tweens weren't sent to Korea to get fucked up.
Thank you, Lost Universe. Yeah, I'm coming around full circle.